Hello again, it's me again, Teresa Valentino, and look, I would like to share with you guys just a little preview about something that's in the book that I'm going to be publishing next on this channel. This will be a book called Weird, Unusual, Rare. That is my novel of outsider art, is what I'm calling it. When I read, when I wrote Weird, Unusual, Rare, it was after my paramedic career came to a crashing halt, and then I subsequently, of course, had a foreclosure. And that was when I just realized the extent to which I have zero social support. Well, not zero. Now, I can't be slighting my foster parents that I discussed in Dear Jimmy. They purchased a van for me to live in, you know what I mean? They gave me money so that I could get through that devastating period, but it took me really a long time to share with them how broke I was. Like, they didn't know that I wasn't eating, or they certainly would have brought me money and food. So, what I wanted to talk about in specific from Weird, Unusual, Rare, there's one story that just really came to my mind today when I, for some reason, started thinking about my paramedic stuff. Like, I have several dead coworkers and classmates. Two of the classmates who excluded me from their lunch table literally every single day in paramedic school. One of them had been a registered nurse. One of them was a full-time firefighter on the paid department. I was a volunteer on a county department that we would sometimes bump into each other on other calls, and we were in paramedic school together. But anyway, those two died. Two out of those seven are dead now. Um, and and then another coworker from another job, I don't know how he died. I think Ray might have had cancer or had some issues with medical issues based on his military service. He was exposed to chemicals overseas. And that's another thing I don't think people have any idea. You know, America can't bitch at anybody about chemical weaponry because we've done so much shady and dastardly shit to not only to the Iraqis, to our own military people. But that's another story for another day. I'm not sure what exactly, but I know that Ray was possibly going to lose his ability to work as a firefighter because they were going to have to do a biopsy on his lung, and having that puncture of his lung would make him ineligible to work as a firefighter. So, that's fucked up. But anyway, he passed away, and now he comes around me at different times and has helped me to process some of the emotional shit that I deal with, like with the bullying and the exclusion that I was dealing with last weekend. I got so much mileage out of that whole situation. Anyway, I wanted to talk about something that is still kind of painful and difficult for me when I really failed as a paramedic, and I've written about that in the upcoming book, Weird, Unusual, Rare. So, I went out on a call for a guy who had lit himself on fire. He had doused himself in kerosene in his driveway and then just lit himself on fire. And so we were at the other end of the county. We were literally all the way across the county. Even my partner was a police officer, full-time police officer, and I don't know if people understand how like a veteran police officer actually drives in real life, but nobody else in the fucking world drives the way police officers drive. So, thank God for him, but he was almost alone. I was like worthless on that call because I just I had what they call vapor lock, which is where your butt clenches so hard that it cuts off the oxygen supply to your brain. Like the carburetor in your butt clenches up so hard that your brain's carburetor cuts out, and you just fucking, you just sit there like, it's happened to a lot of people. I've seen it happen to so many people on 911 calls. One time we went in to do a corpse removal, and my male partner, who was an Army veteran, like a fucking paratrooper, this guy was so disgusting, and when we rolled him over, he burst like a fucking nasty, rotting water balloon. It was so gross, and my partner actually turned away and barfed. And I had to fucking stand there and hold this gross, dead guy by myself until he was done puking. And it's just the way it goes. I mean, you just have to, it's just the way it goes. So, but I felt like shit when it happened to me, because the guy was still alive, and I was saying stupid stuff and trying to comfort him, and it was the opposite of good to say. I was just an idiot, you know what I mean? Fuck. But my partner knew exactly what to do. I was worthless. I didn't even know how to fucking get back out of there. So, that was devastating. That's not why I got fired, though. So, I think that is why I got fired. But anyway, so that was the only time that I ever vapor locked on a call. I mean, I was in a lot of fucked up situations. I did a lot of nasty things to dead bodies because it was on the protocol. And I was, I did a lot of things, but that time it just got to me because at one point when I was like 13 or 14, my mom had sent me to stay with her sister in New Mexico. And she sent me there for a month, and my understanding of it was that I was so obnoxious and annoying to her that she wanted to get me out of her hair. She needed to have me out of her hair and out of her sight. My mom just used me as a scapegoat. She was an alcoholic, and she needed somebody to be mean to at all times, and that was me. So at my aunt's house, there were two younger cousins who were male, and they, I'm going to say they were maybe 9 and 11, 8 and 10, something like that. And then they had this, and I was like 14, so there was really nobody there for me to hang out with during the daytime when all the adults were at work. So I just hung out and watched HBO. I watched the movie The Deep at least 25 times. They had the whole movie memorized. So I was laying on their couch watching The Deep again, and I heard screaming. And so I popped my head up and looked out the back kitchen window, like their whole kitchen was all windows and a glass door or something. So I see that kid running. There's a kid running from the garage across the back of their backyard on fire. Like his hair is on fire, the back of his shirt is on fire, and he's screaming, of course. So I'm like, what the fuck? There's a little kid on fire. So I grabbed the Afghan off of the back of the couch, and see, this was before we had stop, drop, and roll. This is before we were ever taught anything like this. And I ran to him and I tackled him. I mean, I ran a 5.5 minute mile at that time, so he didn't stand a chance. And I was also like 6'1", 200 pounds. I mean, he got tackled by a fucking, like a grown dude, but he was on fire. So I just grabbed that Afghan and tackled him, and then I ran inside and called the police, and I called 911. And so that ambulance got there like that, bitch. They were there like in a minute. And this was so if I was 14, that would have been 1978 in Farmington, New Mexico in 1978. So I had never seen such a thing. I had never seen this kid. I didn't know he existed. I didn't know how he got in their backyard. And he was running across their backyard towards the desert. Like there weren't more houses that way. You know what I mean? He was just running. So it was just fucked up. Like his ear had melted off onto his shirt. I'm going to put a little graphicness warning on this. But anyway, this is something that I discuss in the book Weird, Unusual, Rare, is just like how much that upset me to not be a valuable asset to my team at that moment. And when that man was like, his skin had all fallen off. He was burned over like 70% of his skin had fucking melted off. And it took us so long to get there because we were literally all the way across the county. Even with the way that police officer was driving that ambulance, the fucking wheels were taking air. Do you understand me? I didn't know ambulances could even go that fast. So, and it just was there was nothing we could do. Like his skin was just falling off in globs. I mean, I just shut down, dude. I couldn't cope with it. So, but you know what? I at least showed up that day, and I showed up the next day too. And I cleaned up that nasty fucking truck, and I had to live with the shame from my partner, who I was absolutely worthless for. So, but my respect for him, like I've already seen that guy be a fucking superhero, and he almost never says anything. You know what I mean? Like if you have somebody coming in your house to rape you, that's the fucking guy that you want to come and regulate. You know what I mean? And he just looks so ordinary. He never says anything. Nobody would ever notice that guy. It's that whole world just really kind of fucking amazed me. But on that one day I sucked, and I guess that's what I need to just forgive myself for. I hope that the guy who died there forgives me, but I mean, there was nothing we were going to do for him, especially that in that far of a ride. It was raining, and the helicopter couldn't fly to get him even to a burn unit or anything. I mean, we couldn't even we got some fluid into him, but ugh, God help us. I mean, my partner got some fluid into him. I was worthless on that call. So, this is a big weirdo paramedic confession, but anyway, I've written about this in a perhaps more direct and articulate way in the book Weird, Unusual, Rare, which will be coming out pretty soon because it's already written. I need to rewrite portions of it, but it's kind of similar to a book called The Bell Jar. The difference between my book and The Bell Jar is that I am directly writing about my own experience without the pretense of making it a novel. However, with very slight changes, I can just say it's a novel and then people will understand. I'm going to call it experimental fiction because it's actually outsider art. So I think I may call it Weird, Unusual, Rare, a novel of outsider art. So it's kind of fun not having to really worry anymore about things and just to allow things to work out because I am enjoying doing them. So I got some astrology to do today, so I'm going to shuffle off and do that. But thank you for listening to my gory and disgusting paramedic confessional. And it's only one chapter of Weird, Unusual, Rare. Most of the book is very different from this. It's not all just a bunch of gory paramedic horrible shit and child abuse and burning children and stuff. But there's a lot of humor in it too. Doesn't seem like it. And there's a romance in it too. So it's kind of an all-purpose book. And it saved my life. Writing that book actually helped me get through that foreclosure process and become comfortable with the fact that I am a person who is guided by voices. That was really the biggest win that I got in writing that book, was I realized I am just a person who is guided by voices, and that's why I don't belong in that world. I don't really belong in, certainly not in the uniformed first responder world. And I just have to kind of carve out my own niche in life because I have just a unique experience and it's the way it is. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to share that, and I will see you guys soon. Check me out at teresavalentino.com, and by all means, I look forward to your comments, your questions. Share if you like. Thanks.